Welcome back to the Roundtable. We're discussing the ongoing party primaries and whether they're really helping the democracy of this country. Mule Musau from Ilog, let's get back to you. You were making a point about the judiciary.
No,
what do you think they should be doing now?
No, I was saying that if you look at the institutions around who are working around the elections, at least one of them which has tried to look like it is preparing itself over time and not just around this time is the judiciary. And they have gone on to do quite a number of things, including even changing the right laws, putting the right people in place, speaking to the PPDT, which is part of the process of dispute resolution in terms of creating an enabling environment for them to be able to handle this. So they have actually gone out of their way to try to preempt the issues which are going to be arising from the electoral process. But the point I wanted to make with this is to say that elections should never be viewed as an event. And we need to move away from that kind of perception where we are looking at now it's the political parties and they're having their thing and everybody's on the political parties.
I think that's what a lot of people think. Now it's political parties. Let's go to now IEBC's role, then we go to the judiciary.
Yeah, it is a 5-year electoral cycle. Everything starts from the day one. Once we finish this election, we start planning for another election. So my expectation would be the security agents want to sit down, and I always offer this analogy of in football, we have these security guys who are always around the field. They are trained to ensure that there's no trouble, and they look the other way. They don't look at the ball. They don't watch the match as it goes on. Messi may score a very beautiful goal on the other side, but they're not even interested because they've been trained.
That's a very fair point, but I'm wondering,
they've been trained over time.
How do you separate them looking like they're sort of like biased or they're coming in too early?
You have to take stock of first, what is the environment that I'm dealing with? If you're dealing with an electoral environment where there are partisan interests, then you need to train these people over time to appreciate that fact and to understand that landscape. So for me, it's a question of people having a capacity, or if you're talking about the security people, having the capacity to be able to undertake or to do their thing within a particular environment. Just like we have, when we're dealing with terrorists, we don't send anybody out there. We send special forces.
That's true.
So you want to train and create
for elections.
One, that is something which is actually required because they need to know what an election is.
Right.
You don't, the way you go and treat somebody, when you catch a thief in the streets, you go do it in a polling station. They'll lynch you up, whether you're a police officer or not. So we have to understand the environment, and it's not just the police; it's all the other institutions, the political registrar of political parties, the NCIC. All these institutions must understand it's a long process, prepare well, and then when one of them is playing out like what we have with the political parties, everybody knows where their act is.
Fair enough. Dina brought up a really interesting point that members of political parties also have a role to play. I think someone could ask, what do I do at this point? I've gone, I've queued, the primaries are being postponed. What is my role as a member? All we've seen them doing is, they've been complaining, I'm here at 6 a.m. What is happening? There's so much confusion. So what is the role that the party member can play?
But there are instances where the party members have gotten people probably with ballot papers and stuff like that. They can report. Yeah,
and
things
some
like
have
that.
Actually. There's a house that was burst in, I think, in Nakuru. People came
there are instances where party
papers.
members also know that there is probably an aspirant that is arming himself or arming young people. In those instances, you as a party member, it is now your role to participate in that way and report. Yeah.
Okay, and when we go to the IEBC, we did see that meeting on Sunday between IEBC commissioners and the members of the election boards from the different political parties. Do you think it was too early to call in the referee? Was that meeting called for?
Well, I think they must have had a meeting and decided in good judgment, let's call, partly because, of course, of the delays and everything else, which is a fine thing to do. I think they resolved some issues and they seem to have agreed. So obviously it tells you that meeting had value, both for the political parties and the IEBC itself in terms of preparation. So you can't fault that.
Right.
What we can fault, though, is basically, one of the things that is clear is that political parties are overwhelmed. They're not institutions that are so flexible that they can chew gum and scale the stairs. They have single bandwidth, so they can only do one thing, which means perhaps they should be urged, whether by the political parties, the registrar of political parties, or even the IEBC itself should ask them, look, you should start these primaries early. There's nothing that says the primaries have to be in April. Nothing.
We only give a date for before election the date that they should do before elections.
Yes.
We're
I
good at
think
last minute
Yes, precisely.
events.
Perhaps they should have been asked.
Starting early is a good thing, but when you look at the interests and probably the fears that there's going to be fallouts and probably you're going to lose your strongholds and things like that, you want to do it as, for example, in this case, as near to the deadline as possible so that even in the event that somebody loses, you retain them in the party.
We've especially seen this with Nairobi. I mean, it's just an assumption, but why do parties keep on postponing certain counties where they're deemed to be, very deemed to be tightly contested in the future, in the election?
The major issue is just management.
Is it management, or is it a strategy
it is.
to see what the other party is going to do and then
I think
throw a curveball from your
I think
side?
there's very little regard at the moment for what the other political parties do. I mean,
It's just
very
managing
little-
your own teams, and obviously, yes, you may want to manage the fallout. But I don't see that if you have a short period, because if a party is conspiring to ensure that its candidates have no
Make
fallback
it.
position,
Yeah.
then that means it's even treating the candidates as children.
Right.
Basically wanting to make the decision right at the last minute, and that is actually what generates distrust. That's why you already find people are running on one party, and when they leave, they have certificates that show you that they joined the other party 3 weeks ago.
That's true.
So the reason this cheating takes place is also because people don't trust their own parties. So nobody gains, in my view, from processes.
Prolonging.
Yes, from prolonging it.
Yeah.
I think parties should just, as much as is possible,
But-
start it as early as possible so that you can resolve your disputes early enough to make it comfortable.
I mean, anyone observing Kenya would argue that in an age where technology is available to you as political parties, there hasn't been this penetration of technology in Kenya, for instance, mobile phones, internet. How then can you not move as fast as probably some people would want you to move?
Because our parties are good at managing rallies, okay, and PR events. They're not interested in building party machinery. If these parties themselves even misinformed their own members, how do you tell members that, look, we will be using the IEBC register when the IEBC register is still being audited? If you even pass the wrong information, so people appear on the they appear on the date, on the morning of they've taken some time off from work, and they find out that, look, the IEBC register has not been audited for that reason. Even if I registered, my name is not here because we are using a register that was developed 4 years ago. I mean, simple communication with members.
How many ICT managers do you know who work with political parties? I mean, which political party do you hear the ICT manager is called so and so?
They
We
don't
hear the
reveal that
political
often.
positions.
cars.
It's about the political positions. Who is the organizing secretary? Who is the secretary general? Those are the issues about management that you're talking about, that you need them to start rethinking. They become corporate in terms of how they want to undertake the activities. You want them to become professional in the way they carry out the activities. You want a person who is going to be charged, because we are in a digital era, as you say. Jubilee, for instance, I think introduced, I was very happy with the idea of introducing a smart card.
Yeah.
But then, of course, because again of problems in terms of management of that particular process, how they were going to undertake it, the lack of the opaqueness of what is supposed to be a transparent process, they had to do away with it. So you want to see parties moving towards that direction, where they are becoming better, much more efficient, using the modern resources which are available, modern processes of conducting themselves, even when it comes to the registration of members. These things are not happening, and that's why they are falling short when it comes to when they're given a serious exercise, because this has been a serious exercise across the country. There's you can't really explain what reason is this that in most parts of the country where we're observing, we are not seeing a party register. The first document that you should be having is to know, these are my members in this particular area, and I know them. I have their serial, their number, you have the ID numbers and everything. We have to borrow from IEBC. Really?
But look at this. These same parties insist on auditing the register that the IEBC will produce, which is a good and contentious issue. I can tell you they should also release their party registers for audits. They probably don't even have one.
Probably. Yeah. We asked them that question actually on the RoundTable, and it's really interesting the number of party members they claimed to have. Some said 8 million, 6 million, but we're yet to see the numbers. We're yet to see the actual numbers. But I want to bring in something else, the women participation. If we compare from 2013 to now, from your side, what do you think? Has there been much improvement?
I feel that more women have stepped up to these leadership positions. But I also want to say that because of how competitive this process is, especially in terms of the monies involved, yeah, you find that women are hindered, so to speak, to a certain level. Yeah, but I want to say that so far so good. We've seen women who probably are going to be governors now that the primaries are over in Bomet and Kirinyaga, and that is exciting. But it has not been a very easy process,
Yes,
because of the number of aspirants and how the party ticket is coveted. We've seen women being clobbered. We've seen women being violated in so many different ways. And so it's not an easy process for women, but I commend women because they've come out in large numbers. And for the first time, we've had a lot of very, very young women who've decided that they're running for these seats.
And the fact that we're now having many aspirants, more than we've seen before, is it an indicator of how our democracy is growing in any way?
Well, I think of course, the more we create attention to the political space, and there'll be a lot of people participating. We're seeing younger people. We have more seats actually open. People have realized the MCA seat is not just
Muli,
an
actually,
MCA
I'm
seat.
so sorry. I have to cut you short once more. But we have to cross over to the Jubilee headquarters, where we understand they're giving one final briefing about the party primaries. We know tomorrow Jubilee is set to have their primaries in Nairobi County. Let's cross over to Jubilee headquarters and hear what they have to say.
Even where we encounter slight hitches, slight logistical issues, we hope to continue working together with the Jubilee members to resolve these as and when they arise. So that being said, we would like to thank also the media for staying with us patiently throughout the day and staying with the team and continuing to update the nation on the goings-on at the Jubilee Party. And we look forward to continuing this exercise with you during the course of the day tomorrow. So asanteni sana, and I hope to see you tomorrow. And without further ado, I'd like to call upon our team, perhaps if the tallied results are ready. We'd want to start announcing what we have at hand. As I said before, even as we announce these results, I've seen the parallel tallies continuing, and I certainly would like to give a picture of what we've been able to tie up to this point. Right, we have Mosop, Member of Parliament, and we have the following results. We have Koech David K. for Member of Parliament with 6,126 votes. In third place, we have Tarus David Kipkoskei with 7,070 votes. In second place, we have Bitok Kirwa Stephen with 9,034 votes. And taking the Mosop race, we have Towe Vincent Kipkurui with 15,550 votes. I'd like to emphasize that there were 8 candidates in this race, so a lot more votes than that were cast. We then have Tinderet constituency next to that, with Chepkorir Grace at 5th place with 340, Rotich Matthew Kiprono, 673, Daniel Kimei, 5,525, Lele Peter Kiptanui, 5,559, and taking the Tinderet race, we have Julius Kibiwot with 14,268 votes. Those were the 5 candidates for the Tinderet race. We then have Mwen constituency. I'll announce the top 3 only. We have Gesiato Kipchumba, 4,361. We have Bongei Wilfred Kipkomboy, 6,991. And taking Mwen, Kosgei Alex Kimutai, 13,744 votes. Now moving to Elgeyo Marakwet County, Keio North, I'll announce the top three. Kipsanai Adams, 5,999 in third place. Lucas Chepkitony, 6,775 in second place. And taking the Keio North race for the nomination is Murgo James Kipkosgei with 11,229 votes. The next race we have results for is the nomination for Ndia constituency in Kirinyaga County. I'll announce the top three. We have Migwi Philip in third place with 5,540. We have Ngare Stephen in second place with 6,446 votes. And taking the Ndia race, Kariuki George with 10,911 votes. Sticking with Kirinyaga, we then have Kirinyaga Central constituency, where we had Muriuki Lawrence Kamande in third place with 8,074 votes. Mwai John in second place at 11,297 votes. And John Munene taking Kirinyaga Central in a tightly contested race with 11,432 votes. Finally, back to the Rift Valley, I have Baringo South, where we have the following results. Out of 4 candidates, we have Boniface Simatei Kipkemoi with 436 in fourth place. Matoloi Paul Kimaro with 859 votes. Mark Kipkoech Kebenei with 4,253 votes. And winning this race, showcasing women in the Jubilee races, Grace Kipchoim Jelagat with 8,139 votes. Grace Jelagat is the Jubilee nominee for Baringo South. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what we have for you for now. As I said earlier, you can only imagine the collating exercise is a massive undertaking. And I'm sure by tomorrow morning, you'll be hearing a lot more.
Mr. Musangi, the chairperson of the Jubilee Elections Board, there at Jubilee headquarters releasing their results. What do you think of the fact that, wrapping up, the fact that we're seeing so many press conferences from political parties now? Is that also a sign of that, they're being more open and democratic about this process?
Yeah, I think obviously giving out information, reading out the results out there, because they're sure that this is symbolic of what the level of democracy within their own parties is. So they try to give you the impression that we're very transparent about who's running, what decisions we've made,
yes,
and how many people were in the race.
Mule, your parting shots?
Well, I think it's a good thing that the parties are coming out to tell us, give information about what they are doing. The problem, of course, from an observer point of view, is that we still have very many processes which need to be put in place for them to be able to carry out very credible processes. I'm hoping that they are learning as they go along, so that when we go back tomorrow to the field, we'll see some level of improvements. Yes. There are still quite a number of issues which need to be settled, but I think moving forward, right, we can be able to learn 1 or 2 things.
We hope to get a report from you after probably this process is
We should be able to share. ELOG should be able to share a very comprehensive
Thank you. Dana, what are your parting shots?
I think the briefs are very important because at least they make the people less tense. But I also want to say that it is incumbent upon political parties to be free, fair, and just. And not just be free, fair, and just, but yes, to be seen to be free, fair, and just.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining the Roundtable. You can follow the discussion, hashtag the Roundtable on Twitter. Tweet me at Ashamwilu. Tweet us at KTN News and be a part of this debate. Until next week,